Welcome to Sacrilegious Discourse.
I'm husband.
And I'm wife.
Together we're reading the Bible for the very first time.
We grew up without religion and wanted to know what all the fuss was about.
Well, what have we learned so far?
That God is a dick, and apparently some people believe in talking donkeys?
We're not trying to pass ourselves off as experts.
Nope, we're just reading the Bible for the first time and giving our first take reaction.
If you'd like to join us in this venture, you might consider starting at episode 1.
Otherwise, jump in wherever you like.
All right, let's go read the Bible.
Yeah, let's get to it. Husband!
Wife!
Do you know what we're supposed to be doing right now that we were supposed to have done yesterday?
Well, we're not supposed to be doing it right now. We were supposed to do it yesterday.
Right.
But we are doing it right now.
That's why we're supposed to do it, because we didn't do it yesterday.
Well, I know it has to do with questions that we had with regard to everything we read last week.
Right.
Which would mean that we're on a Sunday doing what?
Q&A Saturday, but wife had a shellfish reaction that was bad and gave her hives and bumps and had to go to bed after taking Benadryl.
Yes, that is correct. Yeah. So we're doing our Q&A today.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to be over Isaiah chapters
16 through 20.
Okay, you ready to do this?
Oh, it's a doozy. Yeah.
Let's do it. Hey, before we get into this, I have a quick announcement.
Oh.
And I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew we have a new merchandise group that we're dealing with, and I have recently updated all of our products on our website, so go to sacrilegiousdiscourse.com, and all of the pricing is only $1 above our cost. So I'm trying to make this as price conscious for you as I can.
Right.
So hopefully that entices you to go over and take a look. And we have some really great stuff: mugs, sweatshirts, hoodies, t-shirts, all kinds of crap.
That sounds enticing.
That's it. That's all I got. All right, so I'm going to let you head on into the episode here.
All right. So do you remember last week at all? It was so confusing.
Yes, I was very confused.
Like every chapter was like, I don't know what just happened.
I think I got that there was a lot of death happening.
Well,
people
there
dying.
There was prophecy of death.
Yes, that's what I meant.
Somebody was naked and
for 3 years.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of just did let's go back and actually understand what happened. Yeah. So let's start with chapter 16, as you do.
Right.
And that was a continuing concern about Moab.
Got it. Okay.
So the previous chapter was like, this is going to happen to Moab. And then, so now we're still talking about it.
It's still happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It continues the proclamation concerning Moab. And we're talking about some cities that Isaiah is saying is going to have the hammer come down.
Right, yeah.
So Isaiah condemns Damascus and its allies for their pride and arrogance, and he prophesies their destruction.
Right.
Okay.
Now, I think, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think Damascus is part of the Assyrian regime, which, and I could be wrong about that, but like so this is part of what was confusing me is like which group he was killing at any given time. Right.
Well, the main cities, from what I could understand when I went back, or not cities, but nations, Assyrian, Israel, Ethiopian,
and Egypt.
Right.
I got that.
So, when I get into this a little bit later, but one of the things that I came across as a little note is that the Assyrians were the most feared during that time.
Right, because he refers to them as the tool of God more than once, and even after they talk about destroying some of them, that comes back later when he was talking about Ethiopia and Egypt, that he's still, or the Assyrians are still the tool of Egypt, or of God, whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Well, during that time, they were the most abusive. All the little nations feared what Assyria would do to them.
Got it.
So that was the biggest, scariest one.
Got it. Okay.
So, send the lamb to the ruler of the land. That was something that was said.
Okay.
And we were like, I don't even know what that means.
Right.
Isaiah saying that Moab should resume bringing tribute to Jerusalem, thereby submitting themselves to God. So we're getting away from Assyria and we're just talking about Moab now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And so he's saying that Moab is going to come back into the fold.
Okay.
Okay. And we saw that a lot in these early chapters, that these nations and cities that were not accepting God, the God of the Israelites, are going to come back into the fold.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's what that meant.
Right.
So in 2 Kings chapter 3, the king of Moab, who once paid tribute to Israel, stopped doing so when King Ahab of Israel died.
Okay.
So Isaiah is counseling Moab to resume this payment
They're
of
like,
tribute.
hey, fuckers, just because he died, we still need shit.
Right.
You don't get to stop.
Not only that, but like, it's not just for us, it's to put you back in God's good graces.
Yeah, that's what they all say.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm not here like to try to say, and that'll be great. I'm just saying that was their supposed reasoning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know how much the leaders believed that, but that's the
I know how
story
much
they were
I would
selling.
believe it, and that would be zero.
Right. Exactly.
You fuckers just want my money.
So the next little bit is Isaiah's word to Judah as she observes Moab under judgment. Okay. So remember, at this time, Judah and Israel were at arms with each other.
Yeah,
they're separate nations. Right. So Isaiah is like talking to Judah and saying, now look what's happening with Moab. Be concerned.
Got it.
So he's saying, hide the outcasts. Now, out of compassion, Isaiah pleads with the rulers of Judah to hide the outcasts of Moab.
Okay.
So he's trying to convince them that it's in their best interest to shelter.
Was Moab being attacked by the Assyrians at this point? Is that partly why they're having to shelter outcasts, or what's going on?
They're being attacked by their own people, the ones who do not take God.
Okay.
So he's saying, Judah, please take in the
ones who still
believe our God
or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. His great sympathy for the Moabites is likely due to the connection between Moab and the royal house of David.
Sure.
So he's like
Ruth was a Moabite, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So like there's all kinds of connections to Moabites, and they weren't really far. I think they were part of one of the lines from Noah or something like that. Like that, or I don't remember exactly. It was like,
I think one of Moses's wives was a Moabite.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So
I don't remember.
There's definitely some connections biblically to the Moabites.
So Isaiah is like, we need to help the people that are the people of God.
Right, right.
He wanted Judah to be a place of refuge and protection for Moab under judgment. So he also knows Moab is about to get the hammer come down. He wants to protect them from that.
Okay.
He's like, God is about to judge this nation. If you can get out, go to Judah. Judah, please help.
Got it. Okay.
So the next little bit is a plea for refuge among Moab in the day of the righteous king. So in Isaiah 16:3, Judah was counseled to receive the outcasts of Moab. Okay. And now Moab is asked to receive the outcasts, and so that happens.
Got it.
This may be an end times prophecy of how Moab will be a place of refuge for Jews escaping the fury of the Antichrist after the abomination of desolation, as described in the book of Revelation.
So this is a Christian adaptation of the
yes
what's
and
happening.
No. Yes and no. I added this little bit just because I thought it was interesting.
Got it.
Okay. There are some who say that. Yes.
Right. I just think it's funny that, like, even as much as I didn't exactly understand what was going on in these chapters, it seemed pretty clear and straightforward to me that it was talking about things that would be near future, not long time.
Right.
Thousands of years down the road.
And that's a big argument among scholars.
Sure.
The apologists versus the actual academics.
No, but just the way it read, like the way things were said, did not indicate to me. And again, I'm not a scholar. I'm not an academic. I'm not studying this, but it doesn't indicate to me that this was something that was going to happen thousands of years later.
No, they all seemed like near prophecies.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So the pain in Moab at the judgment of God is the next bit. Okay. The Moabites took great pride in their vineyards, but God used the lords of the nations to break them down and to destroy everything Moab took pride in.
Gotcha.
So that's why he attacked their vineyards. We were like, who, why, what?
Yeah.
But that's why. That's what their nation was renowned for. So he's like, I'll take that from you then.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Punishment.
Yes, because fear the Lord.
Right.
Don't forget.
Yeah. We gotta do that.
Yeah. So then there was the bit about Isaiah's sorrow of heart for Moab, which we already talked about a little bit, why he would have those feelings.
Right.
And then the last little bit of chapter 16 was about, it said 3 years until judgment comes on Moab.
Okay. Yep.
So still kind of near.
Right. We got a specific timeline here.
Right.
Or, specific-ish.
Now, there's a note from scholars that says, since we don't know the exact date of Isaiah's prophecy, it is impossible to independently verify the accuracy of the within 3 years prediction. So,
but did it happen anytime in this time frame?
I could not find a lot of information on that.
Right, but I kind of take issue with a historian saying we can't corroborate this because of this. But you could corroborate it within 100 years maybe and just be like, it could have been this. It might have been this.
It's an attempt to be sensitive to a controversial issue. And it's basically a way of saying, we probably didn't find any evidence of this, but we don't want to say that should never happened.
Yeah, that's why I'm taking issue with the way that was phrased.
Right.
Because I'm like, no, that you didn't find shit, and you're saying we didn't find shit because it wasn't there.
Right.
And it wasn't there because it didn't happen, but you don't want to say that, so you're being like real coy about it.
Right.
So.
And that's how I read it as well.
Yeah.
All right, so now we get into chapter 17. Okay. And chapter 17 is a proclamation against Syria and Israel. So we're still with Isaiah giving all of these prophecies about the various nations.
Yeah.
Okay. Isaiah prophesies about the destruction of Ephraim and Samaria, the two northern kingdoms of Israel, declaring that they will be defeated and exiled.
Sure. Okay.
So the chapter opens with the Lord speaking to Damascus and Ephraim. So Damascus was actually, it looks like, a part of
Assyria.
No.
Oh.
No. I think we're saying that Damascus was a part of Israel. I could be wrong. Oh, here we go. You were right. Damascus was one of the great cities of the ancient world, the capital of Syria.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I know of Damascus, so I didn't think I was wrong there, but
no,
I just wanted to make
you were
sure.
right. I apologize. So he's talking to Damascus again and saying this shit's going to come down. Okay.
Yep.
Now, when he talks about the judgment on Israel, Ephraim was the dominant tribe of the northern kingdom of Israel.
Okay.
At this time, Israel and Syria were closely aligned against Judah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Which is why God's judgment against Israel via Ephraim came at the same time as his judgment against Syria. Damascus.
Got it.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So the next bit covers the humble response to the judgment of the Lord. In the midst of this severe judgment, some people will respond with humble respect for God, and that'll be great. Those people will be taken in, and that's awesome.
The way they were taken in, though, it looked like to me was through slavery, though.
Yes.
Which doesn't.
Yes.
It's not a very nice way to treat those who submit to you.
Right. Exactly. They were definitely taking advantage of that situation in the worst way possible.
Yeah.
Again, that's the way the apologists phrased it.
Yeah.
So
taking in. I love it.
They took them in.
They find some really creative ways to escape that whole slavery thing.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next bit is about God's judgment will bring man's work to nothing, and the rush of the nations against Syria and Israel. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the bit where God's going to use other nations to bring judgment against Syria and Israel.
Okay.
He's going to use them as tools to, wipe them flat.
Right, but Syria was also Assyria was one of the ones that he was using as a tool as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
this is where it was getting really fucking confusing.
Well, he's using them all as tools against each other is basically what it comes down to.
It's a big ass fucking war. Lots of people died, and they're claiming God used people as tools.
Right.
That's the gist of it.
It's war in the Middle East.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah. Shit sucked.
Yes. Now, this doesn't mean that the nations that God uses to judge them will be exempt from their own judgment, which that's what you just said.
Yeah.
God will rebuke them and they will flee far away.
Sure.
Okay, so that's basically what you just said. The tools are tools until they get smacked down by somebody else who's a tool.
Right.
Looks to me like everyone's a tool.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was chapter 17. Everyone's a tool.
Okay.
Okay.
Now we're heading into 18?
18.
18.
And this is about a prophecy concerning Ethiopia.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, I found this very interesting. Many biblical scholars say that this is one of the most obscure prophecies in the whole book of Isaiah.
I'm glad I'm not alone then.
But I remember saying that at the time.
Yeah.
Like I had come across that note, so I'm reiterating this
Sure.
bit up front to say that's why this chapter was super confusing.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Isaiah describes the coming invasion of Ethiopia, which will bring judgment on Egypt, and declaring that Ethiopia will be humiliated and its people scattered, which he basically said humiliated and scattered to all of the nations that got smacked.
Sure. What's funny to me about this whole thing is that up until this point, the only mention I think of, well, I don't even know if Ethiopia was mentioned then, but I think they were back when Solomon was king,
right.
and the Egyptianess queen.
The princess came from there.
Yeah, she came from Ethiopia or something like that.
And that was only in one of our Q&A suppositions. I don't think it even said it in the Bible.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah.
It might have, but regardless, like, there hasn't been much talk of Ethiopia, and then all of a sudden we're worried about conquering them and getting conquered, and all this shit just pops out of nowhere with regard to how the Bible reads.
Right. Well, that's interesting you say that, because my very next note is a note about Ethiopia.
Got it. Okay.
Ethiopia was a major world power who ruled Egypt for parts of that history.
Yeah, so a lot of that gets... I think that's where Queen Sheba was part of that.
Yes.
They both were kind of one power at that point.
Yes.
Because they talked about Ethiopia and Egypt as kind of one.
Right.
When that was being discussed.
And that's because power went back and forth between the two.
Sure.
And Ethiopia was a chief rival to Assyria, which makes sense.
Yeah.
They
were
wanted
a dominant
Egypt,
culture.
They both wanted Egypt because Egypt was flourishing, and it was flourishing because of the location where it was settled along the Fertile Crescent and the Nile, and it was just great land to have.
Sure.
So everybody fought over it.
Yep.
Now, since Judah was caught in the middle of this conflict, it would make sense for Judah to ally with Ethiopia against Assyria.
Sure.
So that's why they get put in a lot of the same prophecies or announcements at the same time.
Right. But this brings me to, like, this isn't so much about God. It's just about world fucking events that are going on and how the Israelites are reacting to these things.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
That's what strikes me as a very important piece to take away, is that Ethiopia hasn't been a part of any biblical anything, really.
Right.
Until right now. All of a sudden they're this big chunk of this prophecy and this thing that's going on. But we haven't... Before this, God was in a much smaller circle, and now we're expanding out.
Yes.
Because cultures are expanding, not because God's expanding.
Right. That's true. So, do you remember there was a reference to whirring wing?
Yes.
Whirring wings.
Yes.
Okay, so that refers to Ethiopia being an insect-infested land. The Nile Valley is famous for its many buzzing insects.
Got it.
So that's what that had to do with.
I heard once they had like a plague of locusts even.
We're going to get into that a little bit, yeah. So Isaiah is addressing Ethiopian ambassadors who have traveled to Jerusalem. Okay. That's who he was talking to.
Sure.
So then the Lord rejects the offer of help from the Ethiopians because he claims he's more than able to deal with the Assyrians himself.
Wait, God's literally he's negotiating with people that are trying to negotiate. He's like, hey, I see you guys negotiating that, but I got this. Leave those fuckers alone.
Yeah. Well, he's like, this is Isaiah speaking for God.
Right.
Okay. And Isaiah's like, God says he got this.
Yeah.
Thanks anyway, guys.
But was he naked at the time? That's the big
question.
Not
yet. That's the next chapter.
Right.
And we'll have some notes about that.
I guess if he's not naked, maybe you can still listen to the guy.
Well, like I said, we'll talk about that.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
So the Ethiopians came to Mount Zion, or they're going to come to Mount Zion.
Because it's prophecy.
According to Isaiah, he announces that there will be a day when, instead of Israelite messengers bringing news to Ethiopia of an alliance against the Assyrians, Ethiopians will come to us and worship God, us, Israel.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So instead of us, Israel, sending messengers to them, they will be coming to us, Israel.
And I took issue with that because I don't recall any point in time where Egypt or Ethiopia was, Christian.
We'll
that
get
I'm
into
that I'm
that.
aware of. That I'm aware of. Now, I am not. I'm not a major historian here.
Right.
Maybe I'm
we'll
wrong.
We'll get into that
but-
a little bit,
Okay.
okay? Because I do have a note about that.
All right.
Okay. So now we're in chapter 19. Okay.
Okay.
And this is about the oracle concerning Egypt.
Sure.
Okay. Isaiah prophesies about the future of Egypt. He describes how Egypt will be conquered and its people enslaved, but he also promises that a remnant of Egyptians will be saved and turn back to God.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Remember, that was the both and.
Yes. Right.
You will be smacked by tools, but then, yay, everybody.
Also, wasn't he going to plague them first? Or after they turned back to God, he was going to plague them and then cure them just to show them how powerful he was or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So the Lord strikes Egypt by giving them over to civil war and submission to a cruel master. So he's letting them get smacked down and enslaved and humiliated. And he's like, sorry for your luck, but you were naughty.
Right, right.
So Egypt was one of the great powers of the ancient world, and being situated immediately to the south of Israel, it was an empire that Israel constantly had to reckon with.
Sure.
Many times Egypt had been the enemy of Israel, and at times Egypt had been a refuge for Israel, and sometimes Egypt offered a tempting but ungodly alliance to Israel.
Sure.
So it's like their frenemy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They're just always there.
They're always there. Sometimes they team up for a common cause, and sometimes, like, when it's safe to do so and all the other wars stop, then they're like, and now we can get back to our conflict.
Right, right.
So that is why God presents both a prophecy against and for Egypt.
It's kind of funny because they kind of still hold the same place in history right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like Egypt is a frenemy of Israel at the moment too.
Right.
For now.
For now.
So.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, dealing with like trying to let refugees in from the Israeli-Palestine conflict.
Well, and all it would take is just for them to decide we're done with you and start fighting, and it would cause a huge war in the region. So
right, exactly. So that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So Isaiah prophesies a coming civil war in Egypt. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
The Lord strikes Egypt by drying up the Nile, thus wrecking their economy.
Man.
Yeah, he's going to do that, okay?
Yeah.
So the Nile River was the key to Egypt's agriculture and economy, and for it to suffer a severe drought or lowering would have been a devastating effect on the lives of the Egyptians.
Sure.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Like, even a child in 5th grade knows that.
Right, right.
Like, we all learned about the Fertile Crescent and the Nile, and if it goes away, that's bad.
And we need water, regardless of where you are in the world.
Yeah.
So.
Mm-hmm. So the Lord is first going to strike Egypt by sending them foolish counsel. Okay?
Goddamn foolish counsels.
I hate foolish counsel.
Fuckers.
As God strikes Egypt, not only does he give them cruel rulers, but he also gives these cruel rulers foolish counsel.
Okay.
So they're not only going to be mean, they're going to be mean and stupid.
Got it. So it's like Stephen Miller for Trump?
Stephen Miller for Trump.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So the princes of Zion have Zion have become fools. Do you remember that?
What was it again? Say that one more time.
The princes of Zoan. I keep saying Zoan. The princes of Zion have become fools.
So they're talking about princes of Israel?
Oh, you know what? It is Zoan.
Okay.
Sorry.
I was like, what are we talking about here?
I couldn't read what I have here.
Oh,
sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
The princes of here it's verse 13. Ready?
Yes.
The princes of Zoan have become fools. The princes of Noph are deceived. They have also deluded Egypt, those who are the mainstay of its tribes. Okay?
Sure.
That was verse 13.
Okay.
Princes here refers to a group of expert counselors of the Egyptian pharaoh. They are the ones who are
counseling and being whatever.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Despite their renowned wisdom, they are mocked as incapable. Okay.
Okay.
And that's what's happening there.
Got it.
So, moving on, when God strikes Egypt, there will be terror among the people.
Sure.
That makes sense.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, For thousands of years, the land of Judah lay submissively in the shadow of the great Egyptian empire. Isaiah prophesies a day when Judah will be mightier than Egypt, and the land of Judah will be a terror to Egypt. Okay?
That's interesting because I bet a lot of people do equate that to today.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in the last bit of that chapter, Egypt is going to turn to God. Okay?
Uh-huh.
Isaiah's prophecies in this chapter appear to point to two different seasons in Egyptians' future. In the nearer season, Egypt will experience sweeping judgment from God, leaving the nation divided and destitute. The second season is set further in the future, when God will return to earth and establish his kingdom. And in that era, the Egyptians will recognize God and respect his power to destroy them. Then the people of Egypt will begin to worship him as their own God.
Got to have that fear before you start worshiping.
Yes.
It's always about fear.
Yes. Now, the prophecy states that 5 cities in Egypt will speak the language of Canaan. We were really confused about that. Like,
right.
What the fuck does that mean?
Right, yeah.
Okay. Some scholars suggest this means that those initial cities will be the beginning of a nationwide repentance, and all of Egypt will end up swearing allegiance to God in this time. The act of learning Israel's language, which Canaan refers to Israel.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
And that's what I was confused about because they defeated the Canaanites originally to move.
So the language of Canaan was whatever Israel spoke.
Sure. Okay. All right.
So the act of learning Israel's language may indicate a humility to fully adapt to the ways of God's people.
Got it.
You know, they're being forced to learn that language.
Yeah.
One of these 5 key cities will be called City of the Sun. Some translations have it City of Destruction, but that's because the Egyptian words, the Hebrew words for sun and destruction are exactly the same, except for like one of them has a little dot under it.
Okay.
So it makes it hard to decipher. So most scholars, like in some translations, it still says City of the Destruction.
Sure.
But most scholars agree that it should say City of the Sun, which is likely a reference to the Egyptian City of the Sun called Heliopolis.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Sure.
Which was a center of worship to the Egyptian sun god Ra.
That makes sense.
That would be a big fucking deal if that city fell.
Right.
Yep. Now, this comes to what I told you. We have a note about that later.
Okay.
There did come to be a widespread knowledge of God in Egypt. In the days of Jesus, more than 1 million Jews lived in Egypt. In the early days of Christianity, there was a strong, vital church in Egypt for more than 600 years.
Huh. Okay.
So that did happen, apparently.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So I didn't want to like poop on you, but I did want to say
I appreciate that, and I guess if I really were to stop and think about it, the Islamic religion didn't actually even happen until I think it was like 800 or 900 A.D.
Mm-hmm.
So Islam hadn't even established as a religion at this point. So it makes some sense that Christianity might have taken some hold, I guess.
Right.
In between, it was like a transitional between their old gods and their new gods, basically.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So ending up that chapter, an amazing peace between 3 formerly hostile enemies will occur. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And that's when we were talking about that highway or byway or freeway. You remember?
Yes.
Okay. So God promises the day will come when there will be peace between Israel, Egypt, and Assyria.
Okay.
And that would be amazing, right?
Yeah.
There will be trade and travel between the 3 nations. That's what he meant by a highway from Egypt to Assyria.
Okay.
So that all 3 nations will prosper.
And that makes sense. Like, and especially given that we're talking about a time frame right now that is everybody's expanding their reach, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously there's things that are allowing people to trade more, reach out to further and further places, and interact with more and more different people.
Mm-hmm. And to fight over gods more.
Yeah. So it's taking hold in the Bible now, what we're reading, because society is moving forward.
Right.
And so it's causing different interactions, it's causing different problems.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because of God, it's because clashes of societies and cultures.
Right. Because humanity evolves, changes,
grows.
Grows.
I mean, you know, so yeah.
Yes. So that was chapter 19.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Are you a little more clear on all that now?
I am. That definitely helps out a lot. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I grasped some of this when we were reading it, but I wasn't sure. Like it was very muddled how they talked about it, so I wasn't sure how all this was breaking down.
Well, I get really confused when we're talking about cities versus nations versus kingdoms, and I forget who belongs to what at what point.
Sure.
And so taking these notes really helped me understand who the fuck we're talking about.
Right.
Okay, so now we're talking about chapter 20.
Yep.
Okay.
Nakedness.
Assyria to conquer Egypt and Ethiopia. Don't trust in Egypt.
Yeah.
Okay. So Isaiah describes the Assyrian invasion of Judah. He warns the people of Judah not to rely on Egypt for help.
Don't do it.
But to trust in God alone.
God is definitely not real.
And don't forget, this is, Don't forget, though, that Judah and Israel are not at peace with each other when he's making this proclamation or whatever. Sure. So for him to be saying this to Judah, Judah's like, whomst the fuck do you think you are to tell us these things? Like, you go away now. Thank you.
Right. Was he naked yet, though?
No,
not yet. Okay.
Not yet.
All right.
Okay. So then we talk about the political setting for the sign. The political setting. So remember that chapter started in the year that Tartan came to Ashdod. And we were like, in the year that what now? Okay. It describes a time when the army of Assyria will conquer the Philistine city of Ashdod, which is an invasion that actually occurred in 711 BC.
Oh, okay. Well, there's some, Yeah,
there's some history for you.
Yeah, some history.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, next, the Lord gives Isaiah a sign to act out. Here we come.
Okay.
Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now Isaiah wore an outer garment of sackcloth.
Right.
Clothes of mourning.
Yep.
God told him to remove his sackcloth and to take his sandals off.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, Isaiah was not actually nude. He was not completely without clothing. Instead, he only wore the inner garment customary in that day, sort of like if you were to walk around only in your underwear or your pajamas. Okay.
All right.
So the message wasn't about actual nudity. It was about complete poverty and humiliation.
Okay.
And Isaiah dressed as the poorest and most destitute would dress.
Got it.
He was naked, but not nude, if that makes sense.
All right.
Which I'll allow it.
Yeah. It's not very clear when you're reading the Bible.
No,
but I guess you have to know context and how people dressed back then and things like that. And
what they mean by naked versus nude. Right. So if you were reading it just as it says, which is what a lot of Christians claim, then no, he was naked.
I have to say, though, it's a lot more fun to read it that way.
It is, because imagining ding-dongs swinging in the wind is funnier. It just is. I'm sorry. Yeah. Like, I don't mean to be a child. I just am.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that sign, him marching around like poor and destitute and in his undies and stuff.
Yeah.
That was a sign of the coming humiliation of Egypt.
Got it.
Basically, he was dressing ahead of time.
It was all part of the prophecy.
Right. Well, he was dressing ahead of time in the way that Egypt would be dressing.
Got it.
Okay?
Yep.
It was a message against Egypt because the king of Assyria would lead away the Egyptians as prisoners.
Now, I do have a problem with this, because one of the things that they compared was that he's dressed like this, just like the Assyrians or somebody, Egyptians, one of them was going to be led away showing their buttocks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, like, they did compare it to nakedness at some level.
They did, yeah. And I saw that in my notes, too, and I was like,
So, it might just be apologizing for the nakedness.
The nakedness, right.
I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not trying to say that they're wrong. What you're saying makes sense to me, but... Or
it could be similar to when they cut their shirts short so that their junk showed.
Right.
Their uncircumcised or circumcised penises for embarrassment.
Sure.
Like, it could have been something like that where they're kind of naked. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know either, but I don't always have faith in these interpretations that people give me either, because they don't always match up to what's being said. It sounds like they stretch a little bit to appease certain crowds.
Right.
You know?
So maybe they were naked, maybe they weren't. Maybe their undies had the buttholes cut out. I don't know.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sure, and we won't know because
Right.
we can't go back to, those times and see it.
If I could get into a time machine
You'd go
that I'd
visit
be safe,
Isaiah?
I would go visit that day just to look and see, were you actually naked?
Like, dude, what's up? Naked or, undershirt?
Like,
What's going on?
do you have undies on? That's
Right.
all I want to know.
Yeah, why didn't Bill and Ted go back there?
They should have.
Right?
That would have been fun for them because then they could have seen ding dong or no.
Yeah.
Right?
And then they would have had to change the rating on the movie, though.
True.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't have to show the ding
That's
dong.
true. That's
they
true.
could have just showed their eyes going like really super wide, going, "Whoa, dude!" Right?
Yes. Yes.
All right. So, as the Assyrians took the Egyptians captive, they would humiliate them by stripping them and leading them away as prisoners, which would obviously be to the shame of Egypt.
Right.
Okay.
Sure.
So, I tend to think that if they're trying to embarrass them, that they would strip them down super naked.
Yeah.
So,
which when they compared Isaiah to that sounds like he's fucking naked.
Yeah.
So, and again, there's no way to know. People are going to say what they're going to say.
Right.
I like the idea that he's naked better, though. So I might just, in my mind, keep it that way because it's more fun.
I'm going to keep it that way because it makes more sense to me in spite of the very logical thing that was stated as far as like, he was walking around in his undies, you guys.
But ultimately, I don't really think that it matters all that much either way you interpret it. It means the same thing either way.
Right.
One way he's naked, one way he's clothed for a PG-13 movie.
Right.
Either
way, he was walking around in a state of destitution and humiliation.
Right.
It's a matter of, but how destitute was he?
Right.
So, the final bit of that chapter is the sign's message to Judah.
Okay.
When God judges Ethiopia and Egypt, it will be evident how foolish it was for Judah to look to them for protection against Assyria.
Yeah, how dare you look for help outside of God?
Right?
God is all you need.
That was a big part of what this is about, and why God turned down the offer of assistance from the Ethiopians.
Right.
Because he's like, they don't need your help. They just need to rely on me.
If God's so fucking powerful, why did he need the help of the Assyrians to be a tool?
He didn't need to do that. He chose to do that.
Whatever. Fuck him. That's some fucking bullshit. They justify whatever the fuck they want to justify on any given day based on what happened in history. Sure. And they're like, yeah, that's what happened. This is because God did this, and that's because God did this. And that's why there's so many fucking contradictions. Yeah. Because they can't even keep their own information straight because it's not true. Right. It's just bullshit. They're trying to pawn off on some God character.
Right.
Whatever.
So
anyway, that looks like all we have for today.
That was my Q&A over chapters 16 through 20.
Awesome.
I hope everybody feels a little bit better and that we cleared up some of the questions that we all had.
I think I learned some stuff today.
I
appreciate
as well.
It's not that I didn't have some of this information in my head, but it straightened it out in my head.
I had none of this information in my head, so I appreciated all of the notes that I took, honestly. Like, I was so lost. I was like, somebody's a tool, but I don't remember who and why.
Right.
And also fear God.
Definitely. All right. Well, I mean, don't do that.
No, don't.
Sorry, I don't know why I said definitely, but don't fear God. That's dumb.
No. I mean, if you're one of these people
PSA.
In this book, yes, fear God. But if you're one of us who is outside of the book canon,
right?
Yeah, no, don't,
Okay.
Just don't.
All right. So we will. Are we doing our book club still? Do you have a book club this week?
I need to do some more prep work for it, but it should be okay.
We'll probably do a book club today. We'll see how that goes. If you catch this before 3 p.m. on Sunday, which we'll be releasing here shortly, maybe, we are doing a live on Discord today. So if you haven't joined us on Discord before, join us over there. If you haven't joined us on Discord before, but you see this or you hear this after that time frame, join us on Discord anyway and catch the next live that's on there. Mm-hmm. So.
And we do one every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern.
Correct. That being said, we may be back later with a book club. We will definitely have a wrap-up out at some point today. And then we'll be back on Monday with
Isaiah chapter 21.
We'll see you guys then.
Bye!
Hey, wife. I guess that's the end?
But husband, that's just sad.
It doesn't have to be. We are on lots of social media platforms like Twitter. Our handle there is sacrilegious_D.
For D's nuts.
Oh my God. Stop doing that. Anyway, we're also on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. There's a link to all of our social media sites at our website.
Ooh, we have a website?
Yeah, it's sacrilegiousdiscourse.com, where you can also find a link to our merch shop.
We have a merch shop?
Yep, we have podcast-themed clothing, mugs, notebooks, and more, as well as an atheist and science-themed products.
Wow, our fans should really go check that out right now.
Definitely. They can get in touch with us by sending an email to sacrilegiousdiscourse@gmail.com. But before they do that, we could really use some help.
Oh yeah? With what?
Well, it's not free running the podcast, and we need some financial support in order to get better equipment, which will free up time so we can concentrate on our podcast and our fans.
Okay, so what should they do?
Head over to patreon.com/sacrilegiousdiscourse and sign up as a contributor on our podcast. Supporters there receive additional bi-weekly episodes that we record just for our Patreon members for as little as $2 a month.
Also, we'd really appreciate it if you would like and subscribe on whatever platform you're using.
And Apple Podcast reviews help us out tremendously.
Like and subscribe. Leave an Apple review. Join us on Twitter. Support us on Patreon. That's a lot of instructions. Don't forget to say thanks.
Thanks.
Okay, bye.